I'm like, well, yeah. Yeah, but if, you could wait till we record to blurt it out, that would be awesome. Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. We are here. We've already basically done an episode before we got to recording the episode. It's always good when you push record. But we're here now. I'm here with my friends David and Easton. How's it going, fellas?
Can't complain.
Great. How are you?
I hope you saved some of your good stuff for everyone to hear, actually. I mean, y'all, I'm telling you, like, this is, I'm going to say this as a compliment, but David on the air versus David off the air are two different animals altogether. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
Well, is it the curmudgeon? Is that the entertaining part, or
I think you're just it's you unbound by the past,
unburdened
by
what has been,
been. That's you. You're unburdened by what could be in the pre-show. So maybe it's just you're just free as a bird, David. Free as a bird.
I'm not. Yeah. Yeah. We'll let it go there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, a couple people have commented, Why I Love Disney podcast could be retitled to Why I Used to Love Disney podcast. To be perfectly honest, but it's not our fault. We're not the ones that are screwing stuff up. Bob Iger, looking at you.
No. I still love Disney. I just have redefined what Disney is.
Yeah, and I'm actually optimistic and hopeful. We'll start off with it that money talks, and with this stock price tanking like it has, it can't go on like this forever. Sure. And ultimately, no matter what company you are, if enough people get frustrated, you start losing money. And when you start losing money, your stock price goes down. And when shareholders aren't making money, things have to change. Heads get figuratively heads roll, right? And metaphorically speaking, I should say. And I think that ultimately is going to happen because, there's been a couple little blips of hope. Inside Out 2 became the highest grossing animated movie of all time. And before it's all said and done, will surpass probably the live action Lion King also worldwide. I'm interested in why you think that is. What are the factors that make Inside Out 2 that wildly successful? It is we've talked about it and reviewed it basically. It's really good. It's a really good Pixar movie. And it's very great message, and there's a lot of reasons why. But I think we all also agree that it's probably not the greatest. I don't think anybody's out there saying it's the greatest Pixar movie of all time. Definitely not the greatest animated movie of all time. But it feels to me like it's getting into Avatar range, where does it really deserve its number one ranking? And I'm sorry I have to bring it all the way back again. But no, I think it actually is far more deserving. But that aside, that is big news. Inside Out 2 now is the top grossing animated movie worldwide of all time. What do you think about that? What do you think the factors are that have led to that?
And by animated, you don't mean over Avatar, and you don't mean over the Lion King, supposedly live action, but it's still animated, correct? It hasn't beat it's number 3. It's just in the genre where compared to Frozen 2 and 101 Dalmatians, that kind of thing, right?
All right? Exactly.
Well, I mean, again, I want to see adjusted for inflation. I still think that's. I mean, I don't know if that's comparable or not, but I mean, it's still amazing blockbuster that it's done that well. Like if you go back 5 years and you adjusted for inflation, would it have been that big? I don't know, but it's still amazing. It's just interesting that I think we're in an age where it just feels like we're constantly hitting billion-dollar movies here and there, and that just wasn't even possible 10 years ago. The ticket prices wouldn't have gotten you there.
Also, do you think it's a matter of like emerging markets like China and India and places, these high population areas that now have movie theaters and they're buying tickets and they weren't 20 years ago?
Well, I think that's all part of it, but I think there's a lot of things that are making that make a movie hit $1 billion now that I don't know that it could have happened 20 years ago. But if you adjusted the prices of tickets in 1998 for what they are today, would there be other things that had reached that milestone? I we need to go and look at that and see what. I'm sure somebody knows.
Well, I think there are a ton of factors that go into it. I think the timing of when it released probably helped it out a lot too, and like the fact that it came out, inside a blip of not so great or maybe just okay movies, and then this one came out and it was actually really good. It was a good story. It was fun to watch. And I think that the fact that it came out in a time, I mean, we've had social media and things for a while, but the thing that really probably set it apart is you have all these people with a big following are going on TikTok and Instagram and saying, you've got to see this movie. It's so good. Makes a lot of people, people really listen to people with influence. So I think that helped it out a lot too.
I think social has to be a huge, for sure. Because I mean, man, when I was a kid, it was you saw commercials on television, and you saw people would go, "What's at the movies this week?" And you looked at a newspaper or things like that. You didn't even. I mean, we just didn't even have. I mean, this modern internet stuff. Crazy.
I think there is something to all of this. Ticket prices are higher. I do think my question that I can't really, and I'm sitting here Googling while y'all are talking. My question is, are more tickets being sold? Actual numbers of tickets, regardless of the price, than they were a long time ago, right? And I don't know, like domestically, I don't think that's the case. But worldwide, I think it is the case. I think there are more people watching movies worldwide. The world has shrunk, as they say, right? Where because of social media, you now have access to these. And to be perfectly honest, these studios, Disney in particular, they think about the global market, sometimes first, like consider it more than they do the domestic market, because I'm looking at the Inside Out 2 numbers. It's made $600 million domestically. Mm-hmm. Worldwide, it's made $1.5 billion. So if you were to subtract the $600 million out of the worldwide, it's made far more money outside of the United States than inside the United States. And I don't know, that wasn't true 20 years ago. Probably wasn't true 10 years ago. You know what I mean? It's really fascinating. I'm looking, David, for your adjusted for inflation numbers. And I always love doing this. BoxOfficeMojo.com is like a site I could spend hours on just for fun. But the data isn't in for 2024 ticket prices or 2023 ticket prices, but it is by 2022 ticket prices. So you can adjust for 2022 ticket prices and ask what are the all-time lifetime grosses. And the movies from this year are not on here yet. Okay?
Okay.
But the number one of all time, it hasn't changed. It's the same one. Do you know what it is? We talked about this before.
I'm assuming an Avatar movie.
No, it's Gone with the Wind.
Oh,
Gone with the Wind.
You went further back. Yeah.
Yeah, this is all-time adjusted for inflation grosses, right?
All right.
And adjusted for inflation, its lifetime adjusted gross is almost $1.9 billion. And here's the other fascinating thing. They have the estimated number of tickets sold to it. Mm-hmm. This blows my mind. Gone with the Wind has sold an estimated 202 million tickets.
Wow.
Which is more than Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope by my count, about 25 million tickets.
Well,
of course, it has 40 years on it.
Yeah.
But Star Wars Episode 4, the very first A New Hope, is number 2. The Sound of Music is number 3. E.T. is number 4. Titanic is number 5. And that was the big one. Yep. The Ten Commandments, number 6. Jaws, number 7. Dr. Zhivago, number 8. The Exorcist, number 9. Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, the original 1937 animated, is number 10. How about that?
I was gonna pick that the Disney one would be Snow White. I've heard that statistic before, that adjusted for inflation, it still made. But again, it has 90 years.
Yeah, and that's if you don't count Star Wars now, because at the time it was released, it was not Disney, right? But you know what number 11 is another actual Disney movie.
Is it animated?
No, this one is actually the new Star Wars, The Force Awakens. Okay. Is number 11, all time adjusted for inflation, 2015. But Disney also has number 12, and it is animated.
I was going to kind of guess Mary Poppins might be in there, but
No, I don't see Mary Poppins in the top 20.
so Disney animated.
But Disney is well represented in the second tier, the second
'Aladdin,
10.
Lion King.
Nope. 101 Dalmatians,
Whoa.
1961. Next
Well,
is Empire Strikes
we,
Back.
we did see this because when we did our
Bracket.
brackets,
All-time,
101 Dalmatian, which was high, and we
Yep.
even saw some things that were we were surprised, like Swiss Family Robinson was adjusted for inflation was a blockbuster.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And Avatar is number 15. Actually, it's funny to me that Avatar is the highest grossing movie of all time, but really adjusted for inflation, it's number 15. Yeah, eat it,
Well,
Avatar.
that's what I think. That I think all of this is. I mean, you've got ticket prices that have really inflated. Like you, if you don't realize, if you are older and go, wait a minute, how much did I just pay for that ticket?
True.
You don't have that reference for like, wait a minute, that's double what I paid for a ticket just a little bit ago.
Yep, you're exactly right. Avengers Endgame comes in next. Star Wars Return of the Jedi is next. Jurassic Park, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace is next. And The Lion King, the original Lion King, 1994, rounds out the top 20.
Wow.
So, there you go.
So the original Lion King, adjusted for inflation, sells is higher than the CGI Lion King.
Yes, but I will say this. I don't know if this list... Now, this says as of July 25th. So, but there's noticeably missing like movies like Barbie and that I feel like should be on here, which means maybe they haven't been calculated in yet.
But it's
You know
just
what I'm
it's just up to 2022, right?
ticket prices. It's based on 2022 ticket price, right? So, but it doesn't seem to be any newer movies through. Like Inside Out 2 is not on this list at all.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have 23, 24 movies in there because they didn't have 2022 ticket prices.
That's
all
true.
right,
But it is curious to see the newest
but that
movie
just
on
shows
here.
you again. Okay, if Avatar is number 15, that just shows you how inflated prices have gone. Whereas people used to pay $1 a ticket, now they're paying $20 a ticket. That's just a big difference.
It's true. It's true. This is all fascinating to me. I'm looking through here, but it is interesting to see. Like, Inside Out 2 is making a ton of money, and, and that is good for Disney. You know, they're going to be able to say that, and then we'll find out what the box office numbers are for the Deadpool Wolverine movie, which I assume is going to be very large. Will it compete for the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time? I actually pulled that up on the Box Office Mojo. Would you like to guess? Would you like to guess the all-time grossing movies based on rating? So, for instance, the MPAA rating, the highest grossing G-rated movie, the highest grossing PG-rated movie, the highest grossing PG-13 rated movie. And this is not adjusted for inflation. This is overall dollars. Would you like to guess these based on rating?
Yes. Can I guess the R-rated?
Yes, Easton. What do you think the R-rated, the highest grossing all-time R-rated movie is?
No, I'll cut all that out. I'll let. I was just.
No, that's really good. No. Right before we started, Dustin told us what he was going to guess, and I did like that. I disrupted because I guessed early and I got it right.
No, right after I said, "Hey, let's not do this now. Let's wait for on when we hit record for me to reveal this to you." And David goes, "Is it the Joker?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, but if you could wait till we record to blurt it out, that would be awesome."
So we'll reenact it. Here we go. So let me guess the R-rated. Is it the Joker?
No, ding, ding, ding! You win. I can't believe you got that. Yeah. No, what's funny is you actually did get credit because you did know. You didn't write off. That's really impressive.
Well,
the Joker had made $1 billion worldwide.
I think I've heard a couple of times lately that's what the Deadpool.
It's up
Wolverine
against that.
It's up against Joker. Can it beat Joker? Will it beat Joker?
I don't think I would have
basically
guessed Joker. I don't know if that would have been my guess.
And what's funny about Joker is it's not like. It's not one you want to. It's such an interesting movie. Have y'all seen it?
I've not.
No.
Okay, I've seen it, and this is $1 billion. This is a comic book franchise. We're talking about the Joker here. This is Batman, right? And Joaquin Phoenix And this was nominated for Best Picture. I think he was nominated for Best Actor. I'm not sure if he won or not. He might have. I don't remember. But either way, I remember like avoiding this movie kind of like because it just seemed so dark and just so weird, right? And for a movie like this to make $1 billion, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Now, I will say it's really good, but it is disturbing. Like, I will never watch it again.
Well,
Ever.
that's why
You know what
that's
I mean?
why
Like,
I haven't seen it. Is everyone that I know that's seen it has been like, it was great, but I came out feeling like, oh,
Icky.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
that's kind of one thing I probably avoid, and I didn't. I used to run into all that stuff. The older you get, the world. It's dark enough. I'm always amazed that it just more and more gets made like that, because it's like, is that helpful? Is that? But people love it.
Well,
I don't.
the only
I
thing
don't like icky.
I know, but the only thing I could think of is if this movie is standalone or just centers around Joaquin Phoenix and a bad guy, that's one thing. If it ever leads into him being a bad guy with an actual great Batman, and now that, that could be great because he's a great bad guy. Joaquin Phoenix might be the greatest living American actor. He might be. I mean,
Yeah. It's tough when you want to see something for the performance, but then there are just other things that go, man, that's going to disrupt me so bad. I just don't know if it's worth it.
well, that's a whole discussion too about the legend of the Joker. People who've played the Joker. I mean, Heath Ledger's crowning performance, was the Joker.
Yeah.
It was so, and some people blame his, him being that character on his death. That he was so in a spiral that had, so immersed himself in this psychotic role that, drugs and everything else were people. I mean, I've heard that I don't know that for a fact, but I've heard, speculation of that. There's a lot of lore around this character and how things have gone around it. So it's really interesting. It's $1 billion.
Don't forget Cesar Romero from the 1966 TV series.
Cesar Romero. Oh yeah, of course.
Could he ever live that performance down?
I tell you what,
it was so riveting, and
he is legendary though. Yeah, kind of that laugh right there. That's what he's famous for. You know what I mean? Like,
no, it was a little bit higher. I'm not going to try that one.
PG-13. Obviously the highest grossing movie of all time is Avatar. That's because it is the highest grossing movie, and it was rated PG-13. But do you want to guess the PG movie?
Well, it's not. I guess things didn't have ratings like that. Gone with the Wind probably did have a rating.
This is not adjusted for inflation. This is not.
Oh, okay. All right.
These are
all right
at all. It's Disney.
Oh.
I was going to guess a Star Wars movie. Are you calling Star Wars Disney?
Yeah, we'll count it, but no, it's not. But you've mentioned it already in this podcast.
Oh, man.
Well, shoot.
But it's not. Is it animated?
I don't think this one is. This is another hint.
Oh, is it The Lion King?
Yes, The Lion King remake, $1.6 billion. So, yeah, that Lion King is the highest grossing PG movie of all time. What about the G-rated movie? The highest grossing G, also $1 billion movie.
Well, this is a tough one because there hasn't been anything G in a good while.
Yeah, and this surprised me that this was. Like,
G
this
pretty
is
much just means people don't go anymore, which is interesting. Gosh, you know what year? Does it tell the year?
It does not, but
okay.
Hold on, I can tell you. 2019, actually.
Whoa. Is it Disney?
But it's not Disney.
It is Disney. It's very much Disney.
2019, a G movie?
And I verified the MPAA rating on this is G.
I mean, that was when the live-action Lion King came out as well. This is everything boomed that year.
That was when Disney couldn't miss. Like, couldn't miss. $1 billion movie after $1 billion movie.
Well, I know it. I do know it. It's
yeah, you know it.
It's animated?
It's animated.
Oh, it's Frozen 2.
No, it's not.
Ah! Not Frozen 2. Toy Story 4.
Yep. You got it. Toy Story 4.
Right. Well,
$1 billion. I didn't realize that was rated G. The G thing throws you off because you're trying to think, well, they're almost all rated PG now. You know what I mean? Like,
right, and I guess I bet Frozen 2 was PG.
Probably so. I would say you're probably right.
I'm surprised Toy Story 4 got a G rating because they don't typically do that. I mean, there's typically something that's a little too intense anymore for them to put a G rating, which means you don't need any kids can go in all by themselves.
Yeah, Toy Story 4 had a bunch of slappies in it.
Oh yeah, what is this? Is that the ventriloquist
the
dummy?
Goosebumps dolls? The
Yeah,
puppets?
you're right. You're
Those
right.
were creepy.
I think he's Vincent. In this one. Wasn't he Vincent?
I don't know.
That's true. It was kind of creepy. I will agree with that. Yeah,
I just looked it
kind of
up.
creepy
Yeah,
for a G rating.
Toy Story was G, and but Frozen 2 was PG, Lion King was PG, Aladdin live action was PG, Dumbo remake was PG, even Mary Poppins Returns was PG. That was the only G-rated movie that year. Interesting. Did not realize that they had gone on that way.
I am now looking up the Disney stock price at $90, which has gone down since our last episode. We always tend to talk about this because we feel like this isn't exactly how it works, but we're using it more as a bellwether for how people are viewing and the sentiment is on Disney as a company. And it is interesting. Now, the broad market has been kind of like weird because of political things and assassination attempts and stuff like that. So, but taking that into account, Disney is weak. It's weak right now. And it's interesting that it's weak off the heels of a $1 billion movie, maybe a $2 billion movie, right before the release of another potential $1 billion movie. So what do you think is still the driving factor of this kind of stuff? I saw the guy, the former Marvel mogul, Perlmutter, sold his entire stake of Disney. It was just reported here in the Hollywood Reporter and a few other places. Do you think people are fed up? Do you think they're still having business problems? What do you think it is, David?
I don't know. I wish I did know, but I do know that he actually. I mean, a lot of that's coming out, but he would have sold it months ago, like probably April, May, to get the price that he supposedly got. It had to be back a little bit farther back. But I don't know. Maybe just that news. Maybe just the news of somebody like that selling their shares. Does that make everybody a little more hesitant? Or I actually saw that he said something like he somebody reported. I'll say that somebody reported that he had said he would buy again if it got down in the 60s, and that was like, whoa. Does he think that's going to happen?
Well, it's just so interesting that he's so big in Marvel, and he sells his stock right before. I mean, at the time we're recording this, it's before the release of Deadpool. By the time it comes out, this episode comes out, Deadpool will have been released. But it's just interesting that he's selling before Deadpool's release.
Well, again, I think he sold back in April or May. That's before anybody would have known what Inside Out or Deadpool were going to be. But that both he and Nelson Peltz got out when they thought the price was as high as they could get because they knew it was going to dip.
Well, so far they've been right.
I guess when you're going to make $1 billion off of it, you can just put it in the bank and buy back again if it drops down low, and you think that it's hopeful that it's going to go back high. But in the meantime, they make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on record saying if the price gets in the low 80s or in the 80s, that I'm a buyer, right? Because it just gets to a point where it's too cheap, right? It's the valuation of this brand that owns all this intellectual property and all this real estate and all of this technology, and at some point it's a great buy. You know what I'm saying? Does it have further to go down? Perhaps it does, and I'm watching closely. But movies are one thing, right? We go from 2019. We just talked about how there was just literally $1 billion movie after $1 billion movie. Disney could not miss at the box office, right? And then Disney Plus comes out right in the middle, right at the perfect time, right? Like if Bob Iger, had designed COVID himself, that would be a good, suspicion and conspiracy theory, because it could not have been, Disney Plus could not have come out at a better time, right? And the stock price goes to an all-time high, I think close to 180, right after the COVID crash, and bounces back up quickly. And since then, it's just, kind of petered out. And Bob Iger steps down, Chapek steps in. He seems to suck too. And I remember the podcast we had when, the board fires Chapek and rehires Iger. I remember us thinking, oh, finally, we're back. You know what I mean? Like, Iger's going to fix everything. And then, and it seems like the problems were a little deeper than we all knew, or most people thought. And I think those sentiments come out and where the stock price is headed. People just don't love the direction of the company as a whole, and they don't have confidence that that Disney is its best years are ahead of it, right?
Right. Well, I think we also, we didn't realize in that moment and in the pandemic and all this is going on that, that really Bob Iger never really left. He and most of the decisions that Bob Chapek made were things that were made before he came into power. I mean, a lot of this stuff, he didn't just suddenly invent Genie Plus. That was already being worked on. So there were a lot of things that just were already in the works that and Bob Chapek he wasn't even there very long. When you look at this, I mean, it was just a blip in this whole history. So, I also hear he gets a lot of credit that that the stock was up around $200. I don't even know. I mean, who knows who was responsible for what? Because I don't think Bob Iger really let go of the reins. I mean, do you think so?
I think that, like, if I could be wrong because I don't have any inside knowledge, but I felt like the sentiment was Chapek had come in, and was he the head of parks before?
Yes.
Was that his? Okay, and he got to implement all of his little pet projects that would deal with park reservations, a paid line system. That more technology, more hoops to jump through. Remember he was really focused on the high-end customer, right? More high-end experiences. I mean, this wasn't him, but Star Wars Galaxy, the Galactic Star Cruiser, opened during his tenure, right? Opened and closed, right?
But so, Bob Iger knew all of those things. He knew them all. He was not unaware. He was, if Chapek's running forward with it, that Bob Iger and the board, everybody knows this stuff's going on. It's like, but after the fact, they'll be like, oh, well, my predecessor, he made these mistakes. It's like, no, you were there. He was there.
Yeah, it's true. Do you think? So, are you suggesting that maybe Chapek was the scapegoat? Like, they wanted to implement all these unpopular things, and so he steps back to put Chapek out there to implement all these unpopular things, and then just to take the reins back and blame it on Chapek? You think that it's that 4D chess kind of thing?
I'm sure you could find many, 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 many podcasts and vlogs and that would say that. Yes, I mean,
let's blame all the reservation system on Bob Chapek. He's not there anymore. Everybody hates that, so let's blame Chapek.
I do think you see that a lot. I mean, there's a case right now where they're dealing with this actress Gina Carano that they let go from The Mandalorian, and I just yesterday heard somebody say, well, if this goes further in court, which they were trying to get it dismissed and it didn't get dismissed, but they'll probably come back and say, well, Bob Chapek was in charge then, and we don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well, I do see, like, there's a Bloomberg article that I believe this was released yesterday. Excuse me. And the title of the article is "How Walt Disney World is Trying to Make Amends with Unhappy Guests," and the byline is Disney's price hikes, crowds, and customer service missteps have caused many to sour on the parks. Now the company is working to earn them back, and it goes on to highlight. It quotes a few people, a mother of two in Dallas, how Disney's lost our family for good. She says, "We've had back-to-back negative experiences with staff. The standby lines are out of control, and the cost has become insurmountable. It's no longer the happiest place on earth," right? And there's more and more of the sentiment talks about its Yelp reviews, whereas used to, they would get very high marks. That's now tumbled. There's actually, it says last year more than 40% of Yelp reviewers gave the theme park a 1 and 2 star review. For Disney World, that's a big deal. You know what I mean?
I
like
think so.
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge deal. It's a sentiment crisis, and whether it's reality or not, that's the sentiment. I do think some of it's reality. Like I've talked to you guys about, I've been to Universal twice in the last few years. I haven't been to Disney in a long time. I'm planning to potentially go in November, but I get a little anxiety thinking about having to plan my trip around Genie Plus and all the big ticket items that my family's never done. The potential that we might be there and might not get to do these things really just pre-upsets me. Like I'm upset already. It hasn't even happened yet, right? That's even a possibility, that they've created this system where you can't just go to the park and stand in line for the ride you want to ride and eventually ride the ride.
Right. Yeah, I was looking down here. It talks about complaints adding up in June, the fumbled reimagining of Splash Mountain. Weeks later, the company overhauling its Genie Plus ride reservation system, already complicated, now called the Lightning Lane Multipass, with different rules for guests. And I've already seen multiple articles and things about that, about just how, I wish they could figure out a way that just always, everything they do like this penalizes somebody. Like they have a group that says, well, I'm a planner, I gotta know beforehand. So everything they do like that, okay, we're gonna let this group of people, the hotel guests, they get to pick their Lightning Lane choices early. So that means if you're coming into the park and you don't know anything about this, you're just immediately, you're going to get what's left over. So what you're going to pay for if you buy that are probably things that are walk-on attractions anyway. And that's a bad customer service thing when you start realizing, like, man, and on top of all that, I still have to pay extra to ride Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind or Rise of the Resistance or all these things that you have to pay extra for. You can't even they're not included in the regular multipass, and you can't just stand in line for them. It's still, and here's the thing again, that this is the kind of stuff in all companies that just ticks me off a little bit. And it says, customer services listening, Disney says, quote, we hear about the complaints and we've had many trainings on improving guest interactions. Many trainings. See, that's like when you have a trouble with the way AT&T does, like something that I'm just using them as an example. You say you're having trouble with your AT&T service, and the only thing you're allowed to critique is the person on the phone that you're talking to. AT&T never says, what do you think of our service? They only say, what do you think of this person that answered the call? That's what they're coming right back with. Yeah, Disney, we hear the complaints, so we're working on training. That means park cast members.
Yeah.
Instead of going, we're figuring out what we need to do to make the customer happy. No, we're just going to train the cast members to try to smooth this over instead of fixing the problems. You hear what I'm saying? That's just something I see in lots of things. I don't care if it's Comcast or AT&T or Disney. It's always like, how can we make this frontline cast member smooth the problem over instead of fixing the problem?
Yeah.
And that's my old dad comment on that. The guest experience remains a top priority for any Disney theme park visit, says Disney spokesperson Melissa Britt. I hear you, Melissa, but I'm not always sure.
Yeah, I feel like the entirety of making your Disney vacation a one in which you have to figure out a computer system in order to have a great vacation, that's completely the antithesis of what I want to do on vacation. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to look at my phone and have to, and now they just I'm reading they changed it. You can now, instead of, and I do think, 7 a.m. of the day you're going to the park, you have to plan your day out. That's not my personality. I don't want to do that. Now you can do it a week in advance, apparently, but still, I don't want, I just want to go to the park and I want to look at the map.
With the old fast pass system, you could do it months in advance because we would, by the time we would pick we'd say, hey, let's go to Disney again. We could go in, we can actually go in 2 months. And by the time we would go to Planet, already fast passes would be taken because there were people that got to do it even before. So there's always been this precedent that there's people would get in, people that plan their trips out 6 months, a year in advance. They're waiting for that day on their calendar that they can make that reservation for Be Our Guest restaurant. And then there's other people that decide to go a month ahead of time. Well, if you decide to go a month ahead of time, you're spending just as much money, but you're going to pay. You're not going to get the same experience because you didn't know a year in advance that you were going to go. I always, that's one thing I did like about. I mean, I don't want to be making reservations at midnight. I don't want to be up at 7 a.m. But it did level the playing field that everybody was in the same boat. Now we're back to the wealthiest who can stay at the Floridian. And I love the Floridian. We've stayed there, but I just don't know that I think that's the kindest thing to do. That always it comes down to who. And I do think if you're staying at a resort, you deserve perks. I mean, I think that's a huge part of staying at a big resort like that. But I hate it at the penalty of other people who just happen to be staying somewhere else.
Yeah, this is the frustrating thing. Like the Disney of my childhood, and maybe things have just changed, but like I can still go to Universal, and I don't feel like I need to buy an ultimate pass hopper kind of thing, where you get to the front of the line. I feel like I can do everything there, right? Yeah. And I hope, and again, y'all have experience with this. I don't yet, but I'm hoping that's the case at Disney as well.
Well, when my kids were, we're talking 15 years ago, and we're still going in and getting these paper fast passes and things. Well, I mean, that was still a hack. You still kind of had to know. You still needed somebody to tell you, okay, wait a minute, get these fast passes, and how does this work, and where do I need to go? And I mean, if you walked into the park and you don't know anything about what you're doing, you don't know you need these things, and you don't know where to go to get them. And there's always been some hacks. The difference is now it's just gotten very pricey. It's right. Just now it's like the only hack is more money. Yep. Now it's like, it used to be like, here's a hack. Don't go get in this line first thing. Go get in this line. Now the hacks are, here, spend an extra $300.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, this is your only hack. Your only hack is more money. Nothing else is gonna really help you. And there's a lot of videos out there. People do like a year ago you could go how to have a great Disney Magic Kingdom day without paying for Genie Plus, and people would say, go here, do this, and just bypass the whole thing. But again, now we're in a different age. It feels a lot more like, how do you do this without the money? Again, vloggers who go in and say, here's how to have a great day, they're there all the time. They have the luxury of figuring this thing out. But if you go once a year, even if you go twice a year, you're trying to maximize every minute, because the biggest customer service complaints you're going to hear is, it was too expensive and I stood in line too long.
Right.
I mean, what else are people really, really, really complaining about? I mean, it's going to be about value of time and money, right?
Right.
Is it worth the time? Is it worth the money? Maybe the heat, because it is really hot. So you got those things going, and if you go and you see new things open that don't have shade, that's going to be another one that's going to give you a low score. But I think most of the things right now are about cost, and time. And I think the other thing is that it's also the social media, because now people just go in with so much more information. They know if they've had a lesser experience.
Right.
Maybe 20 years ago you showed up and you did these rides. You didn't know what everybody else was experiencing. You didn't have this comparison. Now everybody seems to know, like, this is a competition.
Yeah.
Competition among guests to get the best experience now.
Yeah, it is really interesting how the sentiment can be so bad for Disney and so good for Universal at the exact same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it blows my mind. How do they avoid the negativity? Maybe it's still people perceive it as a better value. I think I do. I feel like I get way more for my money. When you get more for your money, you actually don't mind maybe standing in line a little bit longer. I don't feel like I can do anything at Universal that I want to do. I may have to wait 3 hours to ride Hagrid, but if I want to ride it, I can ride it. You know what I mean? Like, and if I'm there for a few days, I know at some point I could get on there in an hour and a half at some point, right? But I can do it. That's my choice. I feel like, and I haven't been to Disney. I don't want, but I feel like sentiment with Disney is, no, there's all these hurdles to jump over. You're looking at your phone all day. You're worried about this. You have to pay extra to get in front of on a case by case basis. I do think there's an argument to be made. At Universal, they do have like a lightning lane sort of thing. I forget what they call it, Express Pass, but it's one price. It's just one price for all the rides. It's not per ride. There's no per ride sort of thing, right? That just, at the very least, it's just simpler.
Right.
And the cost, it's based on demand. It's different per day, depending on how crowded the park is.
And a little bit in fairness, I did that one time at Universal when I took I had one daughter with me who's a big Harry Potter fan at the time, and we only had a day. We were down in Florida for something else, and so I said, we'll do this, and I surprised her, and then none of the Harry Potter stuff was included.
What?
It wasn't included then. It did not include Green Gots, and it didn't include, I don't think it included, and of course it wasn't a Hagrid's, but yeah, the things that, it was like, no way.
Yeah.
And I missed it. Like, I bought it, and it was like, this doesn't help us at all.
I'm pretty sure it's all included now. I think it's
changed. Now. It is changed now, but I guess we were more in the hype of the newness of both of those lands that it did not include it, and we were like, oh well.
Wow. Well, that's still like the one thing, Universal still does too, is if you stay at one of their premium properties, you get that for free. That's included in your ticket. And that's a huge incentive to stay there, because that is not cheap at all. Like, it could cost you as much as $150 to $200 a person per day, for those, and for my family, that's like $1,000, or more, per day, extra on your vacation.
Yeah.
So, that's not nothing. They don't do that at Disney anymore, right? There's no incentive for staying at any of their resorts. They don't. You get maybe an hour extra. You get early rope drop and stay after.
Not
but
as
you
much
don't,
as there used to be.
You don't get like Genie Plus for free or anything like that.
No, but you're getting to do these selections now for this Lightning Lane multi-pass.
You get a few extra days to pick your stuff. That seems so cheap to me. Come on, Disney. Let's figure this out. There's got to be a better way to do this. Let's get some consultants.
There definitely were better incentives. Like we stayed at Floridian. We stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge. We once stayed at Contemporary. Now every trip we haven't done that. Some trips we stayed off property. It depends on the deals and depends on what they had. But definitely the incentives have been much bigger in the past when we've stayed at a luxury resort or a mid-level resort than I feel like they are now. I mean, you get the monorail, you get the faster transportation, and for some of the needs of our family, that with grandparent being with us and just different things with our kids, that was a huge luxury. But the incentives were much better before. I mean, I think that's why some people, especially the older crowd, are loving the cruises so much, because they feel like the value for their money is so much greater.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well, it's interesting. I'm sure I'll have many more questions as I get close to like booking this vacation and trying to finalize it. But I'll have many questions for you guys and for our listeners at home if they have tips for us as well. I mean, basically, it's been so long. I didn't realize how long it had been since I've been to the parks. I haven't been since Galaxy's Edge was opened.
Oh, wow.
I've never been to Galaxy's Edge.
But you have been to Universal several times through that period. But already that even a couple of years ago, I was trying to convince you, but the cost was prohibitive. And now I'm like, it's already changed again. Like when I felt like, oh man, you'll be able to navigate this Genie Plus thing, and there's enough hacks now that now they've changed it again. So now we're right back to square one. Everybody's having to relearn a whole new system.
Yeah, the thing for me though is that it kind of I'm really excited. Rise of Resistance, Cosmic Rewind, Tron, even Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad. You know, the rides like that. I've never ridden those rides ever.
Right.
I've never done the Avatar ride.
Right.
What is it called? The Avatar ride.
Flight of Passage. I'm sorry.
Flight of Passage. Yeah. I've never done any of those things.
Yeah, and with your guys, I mean, your guys haven't done a lot of everything. I mean, there's a lot that they haven't done. So,
well, and and my kids have never done Splash Mountain. Wait, and they never will. So,
that's right.
We'll get Tiana's though. It's a cool log flume. You know, have you heard a report? Is the water back in the basin at the bottom?
You know what? I kind of stopped watching stuff because after a while it's just got. I mean, I saw videos the other day. Somebody was showing more animatronic malfunctions, and it's just like, oh man, it's just. I don't know. It kind of got depressing at some point. It was like I don't even want to follow this anymore.
Interesting. Well, either way, I'd love for our listeners to write in. Let us know if you saw Deadpool Inside Out 2, what you think. What do you think of the Disney changes? Do you have any tips for anybody who's thinking about going to Disney? Have you been recently? What was your experience like? Did you have a great experience? Are you ready to go back? Are you kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'll wait and see what's happening? I'd love to hear from you. You can get a hold of us at whyilovedisney.com, also on Instagram. I think we have a YouTube channel also, right? And maybe a Twitter account. You can find us at all these places. But either way, we value your time and thank you for hanging out with us. If you would, leave us a review, preferably 5 stars. We don't want any of your 3-star reviews. We don't want any of your 4-star. We don't want 1 star. We only want 5. 5-star reviews. Give us those. We need them. We covet those from you. So if you would do that real quick, that'd be really helpful to us. Thank you so much for your time as always. And guys, I'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.